Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Christina Romero. I am a child support specialist with the County of Riverside. The Southern Inland Region Child Support Collaborative, which consists of Riverside County, Imperial County, San Bernardino County, and Kern County, are proud to bring you this employer workshop. Every August, the Department of Child Support Services celebrates Child Support Awareness Month. So we're excited for all of you to be here with us as we recognize the crucial role you, the employer, play in the child support program. We want to continue to provide you support in these uncertain times as our collaboration mission is to work together to ensure we are meeting the needs of our community. First, I want to share some housekeeping rules. It is very important that you please remain on mute during the presentation, as we would like to reduce as much noise distraction as possible. You may enter any questions you have in the comments at any time, and they will be addressed at the end of the presentation. There is a virtual binder available to registered attendees and was included in the email for this workshop. If you did not receive the binder, there is a link below. We do have some really great speakers today. We have Elizabeth Lawrence. She is the supervising child support attorney from Riverside County, who will provide income withholding order requirements. Patricia Snodgrass from the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement is with us today to share information about electronic income withholding orders. After Patricia, we will take a short 10-minute intermission. Then we have Judy Reese, a supervising child support specialist from Riverside County, to talk to you about bonus and lump sum income withholding orders. Then Guillermo Fernandez, he is a regional manager from Imperial County, to share information about the National Medical Support Notice for medical enforcement. We also have Carmen Hernandez, a child support specialist from San Bernardino County, to show you how to report new hires and independent contractors to the Employment Development Department. Eliza Landeros, a child support specialist with Riverside County, is here to talk about the importance of updating employer information. And finally, Sabrina DeMays, a senior child support specialist with Riverside County, to explain the role of the State Disbursement Unit, which is our centralized payment processing center. Again, I thank you for attending our workshop and being with us today. I hope you enjoy this presentation and find the information helpful. Now I'd like to give you a little overview of the child support program. An introduction to child support. Confidentiality. The LCSA case records are confidential. The LCSA can only discuss a case as it relates to the employer's ability and/or obligation to process the order. The local child support agency, or the LCSA, the services that are offered are locate, establish paternity, establishment of an order, enforce court orders such as child, medical, spousal support, private party and dissolution orders, modification of child support court order, and enforce and collect on arrears-only cases. Services that are not offered are assistance in divorce, custody, visitation, restraining orders, and established spousal support orders. The wage and insurance verification. Your company may receive this document. The more information you provide, the better, as this assists in locating the other parent, and it assists in establishing an accurate child support order for families. How employers help their communities by complying with child support withholding, by deducting for child and medical support obligations, as more than 70% of child support collections sent to the families do come from income withholding orders, by enrolling dependent children in health insurance and increasing access to preventative health, by saving taxpayer dollars as child support collections reimburse public assistance spending and reduce government spending by increasing child support collections for families who would otherwise be forced to seek public assistance, by preventing and reducing fraud. State agencies use new hire employment information to reduce overpayments in areas of public assistance, unemployment insurance, disability insurance, and workers' compensation benefits. By promoting a stable and reliable workforce. Employees whose children are provided consistent support may experience less stress and be better able to focus on their jobs. by encouraging a future skilled workforce. Providing a financial stability through child support contributes to the education and training of a new generation of workers, and by improving financial stability for families. The withholding priority. First is current child support and current family support. Second is medical support. Third is current spousal support. Fourth is child and family support arrears. And finally, spousal support arrears. Please note that current child support always takes priority over any other deductions. Who can send you an income withholding order? The local child support agency, or the LCSA, and another state's child support agency. Cases managed by child support agencies in any state are called 4D cases, referring to the Title 4D of the Federal Social Security Act, the law that created child support agencies. These income withholding orders, or IWOs, are issued by a child support agency and do not require a judge's signature. Private cases. If the case is not being managed through a child support agency, the family court will issue the income withholding order, or the IWO. You, the employer, will be served the documentation by a private party, either the person who will be receiving the support or that person's representative. As employers, you are one of our closest partners, with an important role in helping ensure families get the financial and medical support they need. More than 70% of all child support collections are through payroll deductions. That means that is more money that will benefit the children. There are offices in Kern County that are located in Bakersfield and Ridgecrest. Offices in Riverside County are located in Blythe, Indio, and Riverside. The offices in San Bernardino County are located in Loma Linda, Ontario, and Victorville. And there is an office in Imperial County as well. Again, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. Please remember that all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Employer Workshop. My name is Elizabeth Lawrence, and I am the supervising attorney with Riverside County Department of Child Support Services. Soon we will be speaking on income withholding orders and the responsibilities of employers. Let's get started. Okay, so income withholding requirements. One thing just to kind of let you all know, if you have any questions as we go through this presentation, please make sure to write those in. However, we will be holding questions until the end of the presentation, and we will do our best to get to all of those questions. Okay, thank you so much. What is an income withholding order? It's a court order served on employers that requires them to withhold a specified amount of an employee's wages for payment of child and medical support. You may be familiar with earning assignment orders, which are signed by the court. An income withholding order is in fact an administrative order and therefore will not have a court file stamp on it. However, it still is an obligation against the employer. You may also refer to it as a wage assignment or a garnishment order. Employers are served with the income withholding order by local child support agencies, or by private parties, or by another state's child support agency. The income withholding order is really the most effective method of child support collection. In California alone, wage withholdings account for more than 65% of child support collections. Therefore, it's important to understand the requirements. On the screen now, you will see a sample income withholding for support. This is the document, as I indicated, that is the administrative order, and it is binding upon the employer. It's obtained in every case with a support order and is served on employer within 15 days from entry of support order, or when an employee changes their employment and new employers' address is obtained. So this is an obligation against the Department of Child Support Services. We are required to collect child support through an income withholding order. And as an employer, you are required to honor them. As indicated here, it is effective and binding upon any existing or future employer of the non-custodial parent. It may be transferred by electronic means, and it may be issued by another state's court or administrative agency. Either way, it is binding on the employer as though it was an order made in a California court. If you are served with an out-of-state order, you are required to comply with it as though it is an out-of-state, as though it is a California order. There are penalties for failure to comply. However, as long as the employer is complying with the income withholding order, the employer is immune from civil liability. There are compliance timeframes. Within 10 days of receiving an income withholding order, the employer must notify the employee and provide the employee with 1, a copy of the income withholding order, 2, a request for hearing regarding earnings assignment. That is the document that will be included within the income withholding packet that you receive. A copy of the statement of the employee's rights to quash, modify, or stay service of that income withholding order. Again, that will be included in the packet that you receive. And a blank form with instructions for the employee to file for relief within 10 calendar days after service of the income withholding order. So the important takeaway here is that you are, as the employer, required to ensure that your employee receives these documents within 10 days of you receiving these documents. The employer must begin withholding the support amount no later than the first pay period after 10 days of receiving the IWO, the income withholding order. So when you are served with the income withholding order, you must immediately process that to ensure that garnishment starts at the first pay period following that receipt of the document. You are to deduct support from the employee's net disposable income, and we will go through how to calculate the net disposable income. And it is important to understand how to calculate the net disposable income, because regardless of the amount that is requested in the income withholding order, the deduction is never to exceed more than 50% of that amount. So you may receive a request for garnishment of an amount that is significantly higher than the net disposable income, 50% of that net disposable income. Regardless, you are only to withhold and forward 50% of that amount. As an employer, you must remit the payment to the state disbursement unit. That information is provided on the face of the income withholding order. And that payment must be sent to the state disbursement unit within 7 working days of the employee's pay date. And the CCP section, the Code of Civil Procedure section that applies to that, is cited here on this slide. And that is a strict requirement. So if it is withheld, it must be forwarded within 7 working days. And you must continue to withhold and forward those payments until you are served with a notice modifying the amount, and that would be a subsequent income withholding order with a new amount, or in a terminating order. In both circumstances, you would receive that same form again, the income withholding order, and it would identify either a new amount or it would instruct you to terminate the garnishment. As an employer, you are required to provide relevant employment and income information. That includes verification of employment, the full name of the employee, last known residence, date of birth, social security number, dates of employment, past and present earnings, and the availability of health insurance coverage. Now, as to that last responsibility, the availability of health insurance coverage, it is important to also provide, if health insurance is available to the employee, what would the cost be of adding the employee to the health insurance, the employee or any dependents to the health insurance. That assists us in determining whether or not that is an appropriate request. You are also required on the wage and insurance verification form to provide information concerning the employee. It is signed under penalty of perjury by the employer and can be used as evidence in court. This document, it is a different document from the income and withholding order. It is a form that you may receive along with the income withholding order, or you may at any time prior to or subsequent to receiving an income withholding order be served with a wage and insurance verification form. And this is a form that avoids the need for a subpoena. When employment ends, you are required to notify the Department of Child Support Services that employment has ended. You are to forward the employee's last known residence, the employee's last known telephone number, and provide any new employer information if you are aware of it. Employers shall not do the following. You are prohibited from refusing to hire or discriminating or disciplining or terminating employment of the employee solely based on the existence of an income withholding order. And that is written both into the labor code as well as the family code. And that could result in civil liability for an employer if that were to be found to be the case. Now, an income withholding order is a type of garnishment, but it certainly is not the only one that you may receive as an employer for a particular employee. A child support income withholding order, however, does by law have priority over other types of garnishments. So what is listed here is the priority of withholding. If you receive multiple garnishments for a single employee, you are to first honor the child support garnishment, and then followed by, in this order, the bankruptcy order, federal administrative garnishment, federal tax levy, student loan, state tax levy, local tax levy, a creditor garnishment, and then any additional employer deductions. So one thing that is important to point out, you notice that federal tax levy is kind of identified by that asterisk. That is the only type of garnishment that, if received prior to a child support income withholding order, does maintain its priority, that first in time priority. All other garnishments, even if they are already in existence at the time that you are served with an income withholding order, do not take priority. So you would deduct for child support first. Applying the withholding, as we discussed previously, as an employer, you are permitted to withhold a maximum of 50% of the net disposable income. And the income withholding order may request an amount that is in excess of the net disposable income, but it may also request that additional support be withheld. In applying the income withholding order, it is important to ensure that you are first considering the current child support amount that is requested. If that amount does not exceed the 50% limit, then you consider the medical support that is requested, if in fact that is on the income withholding order. If not, then you consider the expense of enrolling the employee and any beneficiaries of the income withholding order in health insurance that they were not otherwise enrolled in, followed by current spousal support, then child family support arrears, and then spousal support arrears. Now, arrears are just the unpaid back amount due in either child or spousal support. So if it at all possible, if you were to ever receive an income withholding order requesting all of these things and all of them together added up to less than 50% of the net disposable income, then you would forward that full amount to the state disbursement unit. If not, then you would apply it in this order up to that 50% net disposable income amount. Now, remitting payments. When you do submit the payment to the state disbursement unit, it is important to ensure that that payment includes the name as it appears on the notice to withhold, the employee's social security number, the date of collection of that, and the case or court order number. That information will absolutely be included on the income withholding order. And this is very important to make sure that the proper employee receives credit for that payment. If you have multiple employees for whom you are submitting payment, you may combine all of those obligations into a single check, but you must provide an itemized accounting for each employee. And for each employee, you must provide the information reflected above. Okay. And here, the net disposable income. We've discussed this for a bit now. How this is calculated, you take the employee's gross earnings and you subtract from that any mandatory deductions, state and federal taxes, mandatory union dues, and then this is very important, mandatory retirement. That is strictly what is required as a term of employment. It does not include any voluntary contributions to a retirement plan that may be offered by the employer. So most frequently you'll see an employee who elects to contribute to a 401k or other retirement plan, that would not go into calculating the net disposable income for purposes of determining the 50% cap for income withholding order deductions. So what you are required to withhold as an employer is that amount, that up to 50% of the net disposable income from the employee's earnings. Now, earnings is specifically defined by Family Code Section 5206 as salary, residuals, retirement, vacation pay, bonuses, dividends, royalties, commissions, It specifically includes payments for independent contractor services. So that's important as an employer to understand, because if you are served with an income withholding order and it is for an individual who works for you as an independent contractor, so that you do not issue them a W-2, but instead you issue them a 1099, you are still required to comply with the terms of the income withholding order pursuant to the definition of earnings in Family Code section 5206. If you ever had any questions on whether or not a particular type of payment to the employee was earnings for purposes of the income withholding order, you certainly could reach out to the Department of Child Support Services with your questions. Generally, I would advise you to err on the side of caution, however, and generally any payment made to an individual who works for you is going to be considered earnings and subject to an income withholding order. There are penalties for noncompliance. This is why it is important to make sure that you take the time to understand what is being requested in the income withholding order, and to ensure that you are meeting all of the time requirements that we previously discussed. An employer who fails to withhold and forward support is liable for the amount of support that they failed to withhold, and they may be required to pay interest on top of that. They are also potentially liable to the employee for any amounts that were withheld but not forwarded. And that second category there is really the most, the situation that you really want to avoid, because withholding the amount and not forwarding it can result in greater liability. You could be potentially sued for theft. There could be criminal charges brought. I will tell you, in my experience, it is very rare that an employer will withhold an amount and not forward it. What is more common when there is non-compliance is that there is a lack of understanding, which is why, again, I want to thank you for participating in today's employer workshop. Or there is misinformation that is being provided by the employee, him or herself. A common situation is perhaps there is a change to the underlying order. The employee may report that to you as the employer and may in fact have a copy of a new order and inform you, the terms of the income withholding order are no longer valid. It is very important to understand that as an employer, you are obligated to comply with the exact terms of the income withholding order that you have been served with until you receive a new income withholding order, either modifying or terminating that prior order. If there is in fact a change, you should direct your employee to the Department of Child Support Services so that we can expedite getting you an updated income withholding order. You do not want to independently choose to stop withholding, as again, there could be civil liability, or you could be subject to contempt as an employer for failing to comply with the income withholding order. In addition, if there is continued failure to comply, at least 3 separate occasions within a 12-month period, apart from the civil penalties, the Department of Child Support Services may seek an order requiring that the funds be automatically transferred from the employer's bank account as they come due. Here, it is important to understand that as an employer, you play an important role with regard to the garnishment and the income withholding order. It is important for you to understand the terms of that income withholding order. And for that reason, you are always welcome to contact the Department of Child Support Services to clarify any term or to kind of walk you through that process. But it is also important to understand that as an employer, you are not entitled to any additional information or any confidential information pertaining to the employee's case record with the Department of Child Support Services. Therefore, if and when you contact the Department of Child Support Services, it is important to understand that we cannot answer questions pertaining to the order. A common one that we receive is, why is the order so high? How do you expect this person to live? Can we work out a better payment plan? All of those questions clearly identify that there is an employee who has expressed a true concern. And the best that you can do as a concerned employer is to direct your employee to the Department of Child Support Services. We cannot negotiate anything with you directly as an employer. Our records are by statute confidential. And again, we are limited to what we can discuss with anyone other than the parties to our action. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that you found that helpful. And as indicated, we'll address all of your questions at the conclusion of this presentation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pat Snodgrass, and I'm here. I work with the Office of Child Support Enforcement in Washington, D.C., and I'm here to talk to you about the electronic income withholding order process. And we're going to give you a little overview of what the process does and how you might be interested in joining us. So I work with the program as the outreach coordinator, so my job is to work with you as employers to bring you on board with the EIWO process. I think we're going to get ready and start the presentation. Again, as I said, we're going to talk about the electronic income withholding order process, or you may have heard it referred to as EIWO. We like acronyms at the federal government, so that's the acronym for this process. And I'm, again, very excited to be here as a part of this workshop. Next. First, I'd like to give you a little background on the process and how it was developed, and really what the keys to this process for our ongoing operations. And the first one is that it was developed at the request of employers like yourself and state agencies to develop a mechanism for states to electronically send income withholding orders to the employers and eliminate the paper processing and the mail handling, and for the employers to actually be able to accept or reject the income withholding order. So to complete the loop electronically, so the states could then deliver to you and you could let them know if you were going to be able to process that order, which was missing in the paper process. In order to participate, we identify you using your federal employer identification number or your FEIN. And if you have a primary or a corporate number and multiple subsidiaries, you can register all of those so that you can receive the orders for all your companies electronically. This process does permit you to submit termination notifications proactively to the state agencies for employees who you are enforcing a child support order, or to notify them of a lump sum payment for any employee you might be enforcing a child support order for. And many states are requiring that notification, so we just give you the tool to do that. In the development process, over a period of time and working with employers and with the state agencies, we came up with two implementation options. And the first one is our system-to-system option. And the second one is our no programming. And I'm going to go over both of those in detail during this presentation so you understand the difference between the two. But the most important part is everything I told you already applies to either interface option. The capabilities that you will have and the mechanism for us to manage and participation. I want to emphasize that we do not charge for this process. There is no charge back to you as an employer for any transmissions that you receive. And we do have all 50 states participating in the IWO process now, which means that if you get orders from multiple states, you'll get those orders electronically through this process. Guam and the Virgin Islands are the only two territories that are not participating. Next. So the benefits were very clear early on in this process, and that is that by doing the EIWO process, we're able to deliver the order to you faster than going through the postal service and going through your mail rooms. So by receiving them earlier, then you're able to enforce them sooner, getting money to the families much sooner. And we made it easy for new employers to join us, and it's easy for states to identify and recognize those new employers that are joining. So it's not a big process when you want to join, and it makes it much faster to bring new employers up live. It increases collections in child support because, again, by the fact that you're able to enforce sooner, we're often capturing collections for people that maybe by the time you receive the order on paper had already left your company. So we have seen an increase in collections, and it definitely saves time, money, and resources for both you and the state agencies. From the state agencies, it saves some postage and mail handling costs, and for you, the same thing. It saves you the handling of the mail in your mail rooms and resources needed to do that. And it does deliver the orders to you in a uniform format. So all the state orders will look the same. We use the federally approved income withholding order process. So it's important that you understand that we will have everything looking the same that you receive, and that you will receive all the completed information, because we do edit the information when we receive it from the state agencies to make sure all required fields are present. Next, please. So the EIWO process does require you to register with us, and the registration is pretty simple. Over on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the first page of the registration agreement, and it just requires you to agree to the terms of participation. And then this document is a fillable PDF, which you then provide us information about your company and some of the information we need to set up connectivity for delivery to you. We also will send you a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, where we allow you to provide us with demographic information about your company FEINs and information we can use to share with the state agencies on how they can contact you if they have a question on a specific order that they're asking you to enforce. And when we receive your registration or your completed registration documents, then we have everything we need to start the process. Next. So this is the diagram that you'll probably want to share with your technical staff. And what you see here is the electronic process and how it works. So if you start up at the top on the left-hand side, that is the state agencies. And our process at the federal level works in the middle of that slide to retrieve the orders that they have ready for participating employers. And then we receive those, we edit them to make sure they're complete, and then we look at the implementation or interface option that the employer has requested, whether it's our system to system or no programming, and we reformat the data into the format that you as an employer have elected to receive the orders. We don't change the content in any way. We just format it so that you have the information. And then we deliver that information to a server that you provide us with access. And our servers that we can support are SFTP, FTPS, or FTP with a VPN over the internet. And FTP we do build the VPN for you, and our team will work with your IT department to build that connection for the VPN. When we redeliver to you, we will also retrieve any acknowledgments that you have ready for us. So we need to drop off to you and pick up from you. And I'm going to go over the acknowledgement process in just a moment so you can understand what's required to acknowledge an order. When we retrieve from you, then we do the same thing. We verify that all the required information is there, and then we format that and send it to the states that you're responding to. So you could be responding to 5 states in one day, and we will distribute it to those 5 states. Our system runs daily at around 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it runs 7 days a week, holidays, and we send those orders to you, and we retrieve your acknowledgments. So we're trying to touch your server every day because we don't know if you have anything for us to retrieve unless we come out and check our folders. So again, this is the technical overview of how the process works. It is a secure system that has been approved and must follow all federal guidelines for security. And we are here to answer any questions that your IT departments might have about the server requirements and what it takes to implement this process. Next slide. So the implementation options, as I mentioned earlier, the first one is our system to system. And this really is, we're delivering the orders to you in an electronic file, and we support two file types, text and XML. And you're required to develop software to receive that file, map it to your employee records, and take the required action as dictated by the order. And we have found in working with employers that if they have to develop the software and they need to collect the requirements, design, test, develop, test, and implement, it's about a 6-month IT investment. There have been few, if any, that have beaten that 6-month time frame. Now you may use a payroll system or payroll software that already has an interface that works for the EIWO process. And if that's the case, then you will see a reduction in that 6-month time period. The no programming option is much easier to implement because what we're doing is allowing you to receive the orders electronically in a image-ready PDF document, and then we provide you with a matching template to use to acknowledge it. And so it really doesn't require much of an IT investment. It's mostly just in that setup of the server and the connectivity. And so it makes it fairly quick for most employers to implement. We often recommend it for employers just to start so they get used to the flow of the orders through the EIWO system, and they get used to the connectivity process and the daily receipt and everything associated with the EIWO. And then they can switch to the no programming, or the system option rather, after they have some experience and have time to develop their software. And we do have large employers that implemented this way. Just most recently, Amazon has implemented using the no programming option with a strategy and a plan to move to the system. And again, it provides you with all of the same functionality that you would have to develop for on the system to system. So the no programming option actually was developed at the request of employers to help them implement without any IT cost investment and to get the benefits sooner. Next. So our system to system option, just a little more detail on that one, is we recommend it for large volume employers with large volumes of IWOs. It's hard for me to say exactly what I mean by large volumes, but at a reasonable number that you feel like you'll get the savings from your investment in that IT project. So if you're only receiving orders once a month and you only get a handful, then it's probably not the right option for you. But if you receive them daily or even a significant number weekly, then you might be interested in the system-to-system option. And again, we provide it in two different file formats. One is a flat text file, and the other is an XML schema. So you can select which option, interface option you want to use. But it does require you then to take the data in those files and map it to your employee records. And then the more important part is to interpret that order just the same as your payroll staff or you're doing right now. So understanding the business rules behind the instructions in the income withholding order, those would all have to be built into your software. And we do use a batching process, which means we batch orders that we're sending to you by the states that have orders for you that day. And we do batch file headers and trailers, and then we require you to use that same type of batching logic when you return the acknowledgments to us. So it's an initial level of programming that you would have to do. With the system-to-system option, you can elect to receive, still receive the income withholding orders in an image-ready PDF document. So you would get the PDF image that looks just like the paper documents you're receiving today from the state agencies. And so if you got an electronic file with 100 orders on it, you would also receive 100 PDF documents. And most employers want to receive the image-ready PDF as well as the XML or flat file, because that way they can store that or archive that with their employee records. And many state agencies require you, I believe California is one, requires you to provide a copy of the order you receive to your employees. So this way you have that copy and you don't have to develop software to produce something that looks like the order to give to your employee. So it's just you have that option when you implement. And then it allows you to generate the acknowledgement, and we provide you with a record layout and a format for the acknowledgement. But again, you have to program to do that based on your automated processing. And once you're implemented, it does, in most employers, greatly minimizes the manual effort to process child support income withholding orders. And again, we estimate it's about a 6-month IT resource project, and the size of your project team may change your length of time in order to complete the software development. Next. So our no programming option, we consider the easy one to implement, and within that option you have two options. One is that you receive that image-ready PDF income withholding order that your payroll staff can use to implement the order, and then you select to use a pre-filled, fillable PDF acknowledgement document that we will send to you. And I'm going to show you this one in just a second, that we send to you that you can then indicate whether you've accepted or rejected the income withholding order that you just received. So using the example I just gave a few minutes ago, if you got 10 income withholding orders today, 10 image-ready PDFs, you would then receive 10 acknowledgement PDFs that match those, and then you would just update and return the acknowledgement to us. And we do have over 600 employees that have used this option, employers rather, that have used this option to generate the acknowledgement. Our second option is, again, image-ready PDF order, but instead you've elected to acknowledge that receiving an Excel spreadsheet that has been pre-filled, and I'll show you that in just a second, with the information that we need back on the order, and then you again use that Excel spreadsheet to indicate whether you have accepted or rejected the order. The difference, I think, is that the Excel spreadsheet would, if you got 10 orders today, it would have 10 line items on it for each of the orders that you received. And really the difference of which acknowledgement you want to use is up to how you have the workflow set up within your company that would work the easiest for you. And again, I've had employers that are larger that prefer the PDF acknowledgement, and then I have employers that are large that prefer Excel because they might be large, but they only have 1 or 2 people working the orders, and they find that one temporary agency recently told me, they find that it's fast for them to go through and reject because the person no longer works for them or has never worked for them, so they can just go through and open the Excel and work those orders. So you can decide which one you want. If you decide to go with one option for acknowledgments and realize that maybe the other option would be better for your workforce, then you can just contact us after you go live and we can switch you to the other acknowledgement format. The only thing is that we can't go retroactive. So anything you've received up until the point in which we switch you, you have to continue to work in the old manner, but we can then switch you over to your new choice. And again, we have over 190 employers that elect to use Excel as their acknowledgement template. Next. So here's an example of the PDF acknowledgement. And if you look, you see that the top half of the screen is pre-filled with information that we need to receive back on the order that you received. And that's all directly out of the order that you just received, in this case for Peter Pepperoni. And keep in mind that if you do the system to system, then you have to store all of that information that you see there so that you can return it to us on the acknowledgement when you return the acknowledgement. But on the no program, you're simply going to go down to the middle there of the screen and you're going to either accept the income withholding order or reject the income withholding order. If you reject it, there right below it, it says selected disposition reason code, and that's a drop-down list, and you'll just simply select the drop-down reason that matches why you're rejecting the order. These are a standard list of reject reasons that have been developed working with employers and state agencies. The current paper form allows you to provide corrected information, like a corrected FEIN. Say, for example, your employee works for one of your subsidiaries at one point in time, but then they move to a different subsidiary, so you might want to tell us, no, he's not at that FEIN anymore, he's at this different FEIN. You can give that corrected FEIN in the box shown there. And you can also provide us, if you happen to be enforcing an order for the same family, children and person, then you can tell us what state you're enforcing that order for when you receive the order from the current, when you receive the current order. And if you could go see further down on the acknowledgement, there's some additional fields there that you provide if you have the information that are also requested on the income withholding order form, if for a fact you're rejecting it because the employee is no longer your employee. You might have information about a newer address for that employee, or you might have information about where that employee has, what the employee's new company. If you have it, you complete it. If you don't have the information, then you're mostly worried about completing the information you see on this screen. When you have completed the information, then you click the validate and save. And in order to do that, you must be using Adobe Reader 10.0 or higher, and then it will pop up if there's any errors in what you have completed, like an inconsistency between your accept or reject and the disposition reason code is one example of an error you might receive. And so you will work those errors and then validate and save, and you're just simply going to save this completed acknowledgement out to a directory that you have identified for us to retrieve it using the same name that we delivered it to you, and then we will retrieve it and process it the next day. Next. And this is just an example of the acknowledgement using Excel. And as you can see, in Excel, you would see column A through J completed with the information that was on the order. And if you got orders from multiple states, then column A would have that state code, or if you just got them all from New York that day, then you would just have the 3 orders. You would go to column K and drop down and either select accept or reject. And if you reject, you would go to column L and select the disposition reason that is appropriate for the reason that you rejected. And some of those other fields that I talked about on the acknowledgement PDF are there to the right of column L. And again, you provide them if you have them. And that, excuse me, that gives you the flexibility to give us the additional information if you have it. When you're done working all the acknowledgements for the orders that you received that day, then you're going to save the file and again, place the file out. It will prompt you if there's any errors, and then save the file to your outbound folder so that we can retrieve it and process it and return those acknowledgements to the state agencies. Next. So one thing that we added to the process a few years ago at the request of the employers is we know that many of you may not receive income withholding orders every day. You may only get them about once a week in the mail, so we're not going to increase the volume of orders that you're receiving, but what we are going to do is deliver them to you at one place. So if you have multiple office locations, it'll stop them from going to different offices. They'll go right to the one place for you. And we generate an email notification, and you can tell us if you want it to go to 2 people on your team or 20 people on your team or a group mailbox. And this email comes out only on the days where we either deliver to you or retrieve from you. And it just tells you what happened with it. What did we receive from you? If there were any errors, they would also be identified in the email. And if there are any errors, we would return a file back to you for the records that were in error. And, you know, whether we were able to accept them and forward them on. And if we deliver to you, we tell you what we delivered to you that day in terms of IWOs, so that you know that there is something that you need to go retrieve from your in-basket where we drop things off for you. Next. So what do you need to get started with the EIWO process? Well, first of all, you as an employer would need to identify that server that we're going to use, because as I said, we come to you and deliver, and we come to you and retrieve. So we're the mail service. There's no place that you have to go. We're coming into your server and dropping these things off. And so we need to select the type of server you're going to use. Make sure if you're using the PDF acknowledgement that you have Adobe Reader version 10 or higher with JavaScript turned on to be able to complete the fillable PDF. And then you will complete the registration documents that I talked about at the beginning of this presentation. And when you complete those, the last 2 pages of the documents where you provide us all the detail about that server that you want us to connect with. So it helps to, you know, have your IT department working with you early on as you're making your decision. And then once you fill out the PDF profile form and the FEIN spreadsheet, then you send that in to us, and I'm going to explain that to you in just a second. You return that to us, and we will set up connectivity. And if we have any issues connecting to that server using the information we provided, we'll reach out. Operations team will reach out to your technical points of contact to make sure that we can resolve the connection issues. And once that is done, we'll conduct a business test with you to make sure that you can, in fact, receive the orders and you understand how to acknowledge them. And after we finish the business test and your testing is approved, then we can set you up to start participating electronically. Now, we only add new employers twice a month, the 1st and the 15th of the month. So when you finish your testing, our test coordinator will negotiate with you to determine which next available date we have to start you in the process. And when a new employer joins on the 1st or the 15th, we notify the state agency so they can update their systems and identify you as an employer that should receive EIWO instead of receiving paper orders. So it may take a couple of lag days because you're going to have mail already on its way to you when you go live, but it usually happens pretty quickly after going live. Next. You may be interested, and this is just something when you go back and talk over the use of the EIWO process with with your management. It's important to understand that this is an established process. We've processed over 8 million orders, and we're still counting using this process. And the history is there in this slide. It shows you how we've grown over the years. And now we're on target to process almost 2 million orders a year through the EIWO process. So it is a solid process that works for both the state agencies and the employers to ensure the timely delivery of child support orders. Next. And then here is just a little bit of information for you. If you're interested in participation in the EIWO process, then we ask you to send us an email to the email address you see there, eiwmail@acf.hhs.gov. And if you can do that, then, and if you tell us, I was at this presentation or this workshop, or I'm interested in participating, and you know which of the interface formats you want to use, please include that in your email. Then we will send you the registration documents that you need in order to register. And again, repeat some of the background you just heard today in our cover email so that you can share that with anyone you need to on your team. So that's the way you contact us. Again, eiwmail@acf.hhs.gov. And there's also a link here on the slide to the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement's website for employers. So it talks a little bit about this process, but you can also work around and find other services that are available through the federal office for employers if you go to that link. But you cannot get the registration forms from that link. You do have to email us. I will be around, I think, to answer any questions. I hope I didn't go too quickly through the presentations, but if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them because I'm sure that other people have the same questions. So we'll be taking questions at a certain point during the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for all that valuable information. Now we're going to take a quick 10-minute break. We will see you all back here in 10 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Judy Reese. I am a supervisor with Riverside County Child Support. I am over our Enforcement Team 6, and I would like to thank you so much for attending our employer workshop. I hope that we can give you a lot of information that can assist you with making the garnishments easier. Okay, so with that being said, I would like to discuss today lump sum wage withholding orders. Bonus or lump sum income withholding order. So what is a lump sum payment? A bonus lump sum payment made to an employee is considered income and can be garnished to collect past due child support or arrears. One-time payments made to an employee from their vacation payouts, cash award, or bonuses. What is considered a bonus or lump sum payment? Severance, vacation payouts, insurance settlements, retirement incentives, stock options, lottery winnings, commission, awards, payments from verdicts, workers' compensation, retroactive pay increases, as well as sign-in bonuses. California Family Code Section 17512 states, all employers served with an income withholding order are required by California to report all earnings as defined by Federal Code Section 5206. This means employers are required to report bonus lump sum income. Reporting bonuses and lump sum. Employers are encouraged to report any bonus or lump sum payments prior to payout by contacting the Department of Child Support Services via fax, email, EIWO, or through USPS mail. Reporting by phone or email. Prior to payout by contacting California Child Support Services at lump sum response team at dcss.ca.gov or by calling 916-464-6640. This information will also be on your screen. Also by contacting the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement website. Also, this website is listed on your screen. The maximum withholding is 50% of the net disposable earnings under California Code of Civil Procedure, section 706.052A. Note, payments to an independent contractor are subject to the 50% net disposable earnings withholding limit. Yes, independent contractors are also subject to a lump sum wage withholding order. Ways to report. At the EIWO federal webpage, you would enroll at the federal site, which is www.hhs.gov/programs/CSS/employers/EIWO. Once there and enrolled, California Employer Services team at the following website for a brief description. You can go to the website listed, go ahead and review the demonstration, and then after that, after the demonstration, employers can register to use the lump sum reporting. Again, the website information is on your screen. Where would I find the state reporting requirements? Employers may find more information about each state's requirement on the state lump sum requirement matrix. Employers can quickly report upcoming lump sum payments to employees using the online bonus/lump sum application on the child support portal. Office of Child Support Enforcement website. The website is listed there. You can also contact Jeanette Ramarui at phone number 916-464-6640. Also by fax at 916-636-2476. She's also listing the email address again as lumpsumresponseteam@dcss.california.gov. If you're having to mail your request, you can mail it to Enforcement, Department of Child Support Services, MSA-300 at P.O. Box 419064 at Rancho Cordova, California, 95741-9064. There's also an express mail. This is for the express mail only. You can mail that to 11150 International Drive, MS 300 at Rancho Cordova, California, 95670. Thank you so much, and I hope I provided some information that will be useful to you when reporting and withholding on a bonus or lump sum wage withholding order. Thank you and have a great day.
Hi, good morning. My name is Guillermo Fernandez. I'm from the Imperial County Department of Child Support Services. Today, I'm going to be speaking about the importance of processing the National Medical Support Notice. Before we start with our presentation, I would like to thank you for your attendance. Unfortunately for me, due to our COVID-19 pandemic, the County of Imperial has placed traveling restrictions to its staff and employees in order to safeguard their well-being. However, before we start with our presentation, I would like to address and thank you for playing an important role in the child support program. As an employer, thanks to you, we're able to provide health insurance to families and children that are in need. And for that, I would like to thank you. At this point, I would like to highlight and address and to thank you, all of you employers, of the important role that you play in the child support program. Because thanks to you, we're able, all child support agencies are able to provide health insurance for children and families in need. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you again for being here. As you already know, the National Medical Support Notice, it's a legal obligation. State law requires that health coverage be provided under a medical support order, even if the child is born to an unmarried parent, it's not claimed as a dependent for tax purposes, and does not reside with the parent or the insurance service area. All local child support agencies, or LCSAs in California, are required to provide provisions for health coverage in their child support guidelines, and the child support agency is required to pursue private health care coverage when such coverage is available through a non-custodial parent's employer at a reasonable cost. But what is medical support? Medical support is a form of child support that requires one of both parents to provide health care coverage under a parent's policy or cash medical support, provide health insurance if available through an employer, pay premiums for private health care coverage, or reimburse a parent for all or a portion of the cost of health insurance, court-ordered dependent health insurance coverage, and pay additional amounts to cover a portion of outgoing medical bills as a reimbursement for uninsured medical costs. What constitutes as health insurance? Well, that can be medical insurance, dental, and vision. It can be a combination of policies or separate plans. Enrollment process. The group health insurance plan is required if your company maintains or contributes to plans providing dependent or family health care coverage. If your employee is among the class of employees that is eligible for family health coverage after the waiting probational period has been satisfied, and if coverage is available at a reasonable cost. But what is reasonable cost? And this is a topic that it's really important and of interest, not only for employees, but also for employees. Reasonable cost means under the law is that the cost is presumed reasonable in California if the difference between self-only and family coverage does not exceed 5% of the employer's gross income. The reasonable cost of health insurance is going to be determined by the local child support agency. The accessibility of health insurance is within 15 miles of the support dependent's residency. This is something really important. The reasonable cost, if you have an employee or an LCSA or local child support agency has a non-custodial parent that it's disputing the cost of the health insurance, he has the burden of proof to show that the amount that he's paying for that health insurance exceeds the 5% of reasonable cost. The LCSAs or each LCSA uses the following equation to calculate reasonable cost. We have the cost family coverage less the self-only coverage. If the result is 5% or less of the non-custodial parent gross income, then it's available at a reasonable cost. But if it exceeds that percent, then the non-custodial parent is not obligated to provide for health insurance. For example, if we have a family coverage that it's $500 per month and the self-only coverage is $300 per month, the difference of $200 cannot exceed 5% of that non-custodial parent's gross income. However, and this is important that this is an important note that I would like to mention. The employer has the obligation to still comply with the National Medical Support Notice, regardless if there's an objection of the employee or the non-custodial parent made before the courts, until a determination is made. But during that period of time, the employer has to process the National Medical Support Notice. Otherwise, they can be liable for any failure to do so. What are one of the employer's responsibilities in processing a National Medical Support Notice? One of the responsibilities that we can mention is that the employer shall allow the employee to enroll their dependents without regard to open enrollment restrictions, deduct the cost of health insurance coverage in addition to the child support amount, provide coverage to the employee's children even if the employee declines her own personal health coverage, provide within 30 days to the LCSA the employee's social security number and home address, name of the insurance company policy number, and names of the person covered. Also notify the local child support agency when there is a lapsing in coverage, date the coverage ended, the reason for lapse, when coverage is expected to resume. Also, other employers' responsibility is that the employer shall not deny enrollments because of the child, was not claimed as a dependent on the employee's tax return, does not reside with the employee, does not live within the service area, or if the child is born out of wedlock, refuse to hire, discriminate, terminate coverage for a child unless health insurance coverage has been eliminated for all employees, and receive evidence that the order has been terminated from the local child support agency or the courts. The National Medical Support Notice, it has two parts. Part A, which is the notice to withhold for healthcare coverage, and Part B, which is the medical support notice to plan administrator. Part A, the purpose of Part A of the notice to withhold for health coverage, it's the part which it's completed by the employer indicating whether the employee is eligible for health care coverage. Part B, which is the medical support notice to the plan administrator, it means that once the dependent it's enrollment is complete, when the dependent enrollment is complete, the plan administrator notifies to the local child support agency and the employer so that the health coverage premiums can start be deducted if applicable. If there's no health insurance available through the employees or through the employer, then the employer needs to fill out the back part of Part A form and send it to the local child support agency. What are the timeframes that an employer has to process a national medical support notice? Within 10 days of receive the national medical support notice, the employer must notify the employee and provide him or her with the following four forms. A copy of the national medical support notice, Part A, the statement of obligor's right and procedures regarding the national medical support notice, information sheet, which is family law form -478, and the request and notice of hearings. Within 20 business days, the employer must enroll the employee's children to a healthcare plan and return the health insurance information form to the local child support agency. Within 40 business days, the employer must provide the local child support agency with description of the coverage available and any of the forms requires to activate coverage. Within 10 business days, the employer must notify the local child support agency office of any lapse of coverage. And within 20 business days, notify the local child support agency of termination of benefits or termination of employment. Then return the termination of benefits and employment notice to the local child support agency. What are some of the points that need to be considered? When the employee's dependents have been enrolled in your group health insurance plans, the local child support agency is required to notify the custodial parent in writing. Please be aware that the local child support agency does not provide the information that was provided by the employer. The local child support agency only informs the custodial parent of the information received by the employer. Penalty for non-compliance. Failure to comply in processing a national medical support notice it's punishable by contempt. An employer who willfully fails to comply with the national medical support notice is liable to the custodial parent for the amount incurred in healthcare costs. Some of the important forms that the employer needs to prepare with of the national medical support notice. Part A must be completed and return this form to notify the local child support agency of the enrollment. Can or cannot be completed if, like I said before, if there's no health insurance available through the employer just fill out and prepare the reverse of the form, the part that it's located in the reverse of the form, and send it back to the local child support agency. The employee leaves your employment, there's a lapse in health coverage, and if there's a dispute of enrollment. The following required forms are no longer included in the mail income withholding packets and must be obtained online. The health insurance information, which is form DCSS 0054, termination of benefits and employment notice, which is form DCSS 0114, and request for notice of hearing regarding health insurance assignment FL 478 and FL 478 info. Those forms can be obtained at the website of the California Courts webpage. Basically, that's the general information on how to process a national medical support notice and how important it is for employers to comply with this notice. Otherwise, if it's not processed on time, an employer can be held liable and be responsible towards the custodial parents. If you have any questions, I'll be open to any questions that you may have, and I'll be addressing them live the day of the session. So as I said, this session is being pre-recorded. If there's any more information that you would like to receive of the National Medical Support Notice, you can always contact the California Program and Policy Branch at either of their email policy.branch@dcss.ca.gov or by phone at 916-464-4883. That's everything all from my part. I want to thank you for your attention and for the time of given to me so that way I could explain and talk a little bit about the National Medical Support Notice. Thank you, stay healthy, and God bless you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Carmen Hernandez, and I'm a child support specialist in San Marino County. Today, I will talk to you about the vital role you play in reporting new hires and independent contractors to the Employment Development Department, also known as EDD. Employers are required by law to report all newly hired, rehired employees and independent contractors to the Employment Development Department. California matches the employee register reports against child support records to help locate parents in order to establish wage withholding orders or enforce existing orders. The information is also sent to the National Directory of New Hires to locate delinquent debtors in other states. And just to give you an idea, nearly 30% of child support cases involve parents who do not live in the same state as the children. As of January 1st, 2013, legislation defined rehiring as follows. If the employee relationship ended and the returning individual has been separated from the same employer for 60 consecutive days, they are considered a rehired employee. The time frame you have to report a rehired employee is within 20 business days of the start date. Employers who operate a business can be a person or a legal entity, such as operating businesses could be sole proprietors, partnerships, corporations, associations, and trusts, Indian tribes, public entities, including state and federal, nonprofit and charitable organizations, and limited liability companies or partnerships. Some household employers are defined as private households, local college clubs, local chapters or college fraternities or sororities. You must register as an employer with the Employment Development Department if you operate a business and employ one or more employees, when you pay wages in excess of $100 in a calendar quarter, if you're a household employer of one or more household workers, when you pay cash wages of $750 or more in a calendar year, any California business or public entity that is required to file a Form 1099 for service performed by an independent contractor, and if you're a multi-state employer, which means employers who hire employees in more than one state. It is important to report the information because reports matched against child support records help locate parents, establish orders to support, and provides up-to-date earning records. And it helps reduce welfare costs, it helps reduce medical costs, and it increases child support collections. Failure to report with the required timeframes. Your company could receive a $490 penalty for intentionally failing to report, an agreement between the employer and the employee not to supply the required information, and employers may be charged a penalty of $24 for each failure to report the hiring or rehiring of an employee with the time required. Employers must report within 20 days of hiring a new employee, rehiring an employee or an independent contractor, the start work date of the employee, which is the first day services were performed for wages, paying $600 or more to an independent contractor, entering into a contract of $600 or more. And the way you're going to report it is by using this form DE34. You can send it to the employment department or you can fax it. The requirements of an employer is you're to provide the information, your California employer payroll tax account number, a branch code if you were assigned a branch code number, your federal employer identification number, your business name and address, your the contact person and phone number, and you're to provide the employee's first name, middle initial, and last name, social security number, home address, and start of work date. Those employees or employers who hire employees in more than one state can elect to report electronically all the newly hired employees to one state in which they have employees working. You're required to report an independent contractor if you file Form 1099 for the services provided by the independent contractor. You must report within 20 days of making payments totaling $600, entering into a contract for $600, or you enter a contract with the independent contractor within any calendar year. The requirements for reporting an independent contractor are that you're to provide the first name, middle initial, and last name, the social security, the address, the start date of the contract, and if no contract date payments equal 600 or more, amount of contract including cents, if applicable, contract expiration date, if applicable, and ongoing contract, if applicable. For the business or government entity, you're to report their federal employer identification number, their California employer payroll tax account number, if applicable, their social security number, and the service recipient name, business name, address, and phone number. And the way you can report the independent contractor is by using the form DAE 542. And again, you're going to send it to the Employment Development Department. You can fax it. And you can submit it in paper. But if you also would like to enroll and report online by using eServices electronic filing, that's an option. And the website's provided below, eddservices.edd.ca.gov, or you can simply call them. Thank you for listening to the information, and we will have questions, answers to the questions available at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Eliza Landeros, and I am a child support specialist for Riverside County. Today we will be discussing updating employer information. In this section, we'll be discussing what information is important for you to report to our office, reasons for those changes, the reason why being that we need them. Also, we will discuss where in our system you can go to update your information, and we will discuss employer facts where you can access the employer facts and resources. Okay. So the first thing is keeping us updated. Basically, it's pretty much everything. Keeping us updated if your phone number has changed, your fax number has changed, if your company's name has changed, where they are now doing business under another name, if the payroll contact person in your company has changed, or if even you are now using an outside payroll company, it's also good to report that. If something has changed in the health insurance that you guys use for your company, that's something also that should be reported. And also, have you guys moved? Is there a new change of address? Okay. Next, the reason why we keep all this information updated, it's important because it'll help us to maintain accurate employer information. It helps us and prevents us from sending a duplication of forms. And also, when we send and receive income withholdings, national medical support notices, or employment verifications, it's being sent to the correct person and address. It also assists us with compliance. And lastly, it assures employer timeframes are being met. Okay. So what we'll do is, in order for you to update your changes, any of your changes, you would go to our child support website, which is noted right here at the bottom of this screen. On the top, you'll see a toolbar, and the second one from the right, it shows employers. So once you click on that employer screen, that employer tab, it'll take you to the Employer Resource Center. Okay, there's two ways of updating your information, getting into the form where you're going to be updating your information. You see on the left side, there's a toolbar. The first icon tells you update employer information. So you can go about doing it that way, or you can actually go, if you notice in the middle of the first paragraph towards the end, it'll tell you to update your company information, click here. So once you've clicked either one of those, it actually takes you to the form. And this is what the form is going to look like. So this is where you'll be updating any and all your information that you need to provide to us. Make sure, most importantly, you provide us your company's current name and your federal employer ID number. You'll enter all your other information that's being changed or being added. Before you click submit, you'll notice there's a little box to subscribe to our employer newsletter. And it keeps you updated with all kinds of good information with regards to DCSS and employers. So once you click submit, it'll take you to the next screen where you are able to add the employer name and the email address that you would like those newsletters to go to. And also with the newsletters, it also includes, events on the calendar for the employer purposes. Okay. So next, also in that same our child support website, if you see we're on the original screen on the top where it shows the employer link, it'll drop. If you go to the left, you'll see the icons on the left side. It'll show probably the fourth one down, employer facts. So once you click that, it'll take you into this screen. And in this screen, it gives you a lot of helpful information about how you're understanding income withholdings, electronic income withholding orders, making payments, the child support state disbursement, the California state disbursement, payment options reporting new hires, termination, and medical support orders. So all that information is provided here. Another place where we do have helpful additional information for our employers is through the Child Support Directors Association of California. And if you see on the top right-hand corner of this screen, you will see it says the csdaca.org/, and that is where it'll bring you to the Child Support Directors Association website. Once you go in, you'll see the toolbars at the top of the screen. You'll come down to the outreach and education. Once you click on it, the pop down will come down and you'll click on the employers section. Once you've clicked on the employers section, it takes you to the employer screen where it shows employer forum. Once you click on the employer forum, as you see on the right side, it gives you an example of what it shows on the employer forum. It basically gives you a lot of helpful information with regards to child support issues and child support and employer obligations, the California State Disbursement Unit, employer data maintenance. So it gives you a lot of helpful insight information with regards to employers and child support. The last thing I want to go ahead and provide is employer information and contact offices. Our DCSS employer customer service line is that first number located at the top. The second number is the customer contact call center number that we have. And if you would like to find out any of the liaisons for the employers, for any of the counties that are participating in this employer workshop today, you will be able to find it at that website at the bottom, the childsupport.california.gov website, okay? And again, I want to thank you for participating in this employer workshop. I will be available if you have any questions. Please go ahead. Feel free to ask.
Hi, I'm Sabrina DeMays, and I'm a Senior Child Support Specialist with the County of Riverside, and I'll be going over SDU. So let's start with the presentation. State Disbursement Unit. California State Disbursement Unit, or SDU, is a single payment processing center for employers to send child support wage withholding. Reason for creation? It was made to simplify the payment submission, improve accuracy of child support records, disperse speedy payments to the families. Federal law does require every U.S. state have one central location which processes all child support payments. Employers are required to direct all payments to the SDU. The state and county functions of SDU. Centralized payment processing, collections, disbursements, fund allocations, set up electronic payments, non-4D customer service, and expert pay for employers. Employers remit all California child support payments to SDU. Include necessary employee identification. We need the employee's name, Social Security number, CSE participant number, amount, date of withholding, Child Support Enforcement or CFE case number. SDU timeframes. Begin withholding within 10 days. Send the amount within 7 days. Notify the issuing LCSA in writing within 7 days if the employee is no longer receiving payments from you, receiving disability, or is on leave. Payment options. If an employer has more than one employee with a child support obligation, the payments may be combined into a single check. Include the following information for each employee. We need the employee's name or independent contractor's name, Child Support Enforcement or CSE case number, employee Social Security number, date money was withheld, the pay date, the amount withheld for each employee, and include a company contact name and phone number. Employers who fail to withhold the amounts as specified on the IWO may be found liable for the full amount of the support owed plus a fine. Here are your benefits of electronic payment options. Employers are encouraged to send payments electronically. These transactions are faster and more accurate and less expensive to process than the paper checks. If an employer pays taxes electronically to the Franchise Tax Board or FTB, or the Employment Development Department, EDD, the child support payments are required to be sent to the SDU using electronic funds transfer or EFT. This is in pursuant to California Family Code 17309-5. It does result in fewer errors, no lost checks. It does save time and money, reduces risk of theft and fraud, faster SDU collection, receipts, and processing, and go green, eco-friendly. Expert pay for employers. This is a new payment portal that the State Disbursement Unit has designed. Due to regulation change from the National ACH Clearinghouse Association, the NACHA, the State Disbursement Unit, SDU, is required to make changes to the SDU payment portal for payments made via a bank account. Changes will go into effect January 2020 and will alter the way customers make payments via the SDU webpage. Interactive voice response or IVR, e-payment link, CSE link, and e-payment call center. The SCU's current bank account payment option, or the ACH debit, will be going away, and ACH debit payments will now be submitted through Expert Pay platform. Starting March 2nd, 2020, employers will no longer be able to pay ACH debits from the SDU website. If they are sending payments via the UPIC, they will continue to make their payments this way. Payments will be processed through Expert Pay, then sent to a DCSS bank and to the SDU. This process can take 3 to 5 business days. They may sign up with Expert Pay at any time, but during the January to March timeframe, the $2.50 registration fee will be waived. The SDU will start the registration process for the employers. Recommend that they complete this process a week before they make the first payment for the validation process to be completed. This is what the Expert Pay registration website looks like. Click, remit, and done. Expert Pay also allows the employers to maintain employer data and facilitates the federally mandated payment of child support payments withheld from employees. Submit child support payments to the State Disbursement Unit via the internet. Save and maintain payment information for quick transactions. Create separate payment groups. If you have more than one facility in the state, you can create separate profiles for each facility. And if you are registered in more than one bank account, you can use different bank accounts for different profiles. Getting started. In order to use Expert Pay, you will need to register and set up your user ID, your bank account information, and payment groups. Users will also be able to submit payments using their debit, credit card, and PayPal accounts through the Expert Pay platform at cost to the remitter. The current process for using credit card via SCU website, IVR, or e-payment link, CSE link, and e-payment call centers remains intact for customers at no cost. Details on the Expert Pay website below. Here's what the Expert Pay enrollment process looks like. Employer payment options. You can make your payment online at www.cascu.com, and you can use your debit, credit card, or bank account information. The phone number is 866-901-3212. You can go the old-fashioned way and mail in a check to the State Disbursement Unit, P.O. Box 989067, West Sacramento, California, 95798-1326. Or you can go with Expert Pay by using this website here. Phone number is 800-403-0879. And more contact information for the State Disbursement Unit is found on this page by accessing the website of www.childsup.ca.gov. You can also contact them between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. by phone, 866-901-3212, selecting option 1, fax, 888-587-5471, email and website that is listed here, along with the mailing address. Programs and services we offer and how to process works can be found on the State of California website listed here. And make sure you see our video resource library and the FAQs. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
We thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the presentation. We can now take any questions that you may have. Please enter them into the comment section. We do have a question for Angela Jones with the California Child Support Services. Do child support payments have to be made on the Expert Pay website? We thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy the presentation. Now, to any questions that you may have, please enter them into the comment section. We do have a question for Angela Jones with the California Child Support Services. Do child support payments have to be made on the Expert Pay website?
That's a great question. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy the presentation. Any questions that you have, enter into the comment section. To have a question for Angela Jones with the California Child Support Services. Do child support payments have to be made on the Expert Pay website?
That's a great question. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Christina. That was a great question. If employers are making payments utilizing Expert Pay, they do have to use a credit card or ACH or automated clearinghouse debit payment utilizing the Expert Pay. But if you are making payments as an automated clearinghouse credit, you can go to the state disbursement unit and call 866-901-3212, option 1, or contact the state disbursement unit electronic help desk at casdu-electronic help desk at dcss.ca.gov. Thank you for that question, Christina.
Thank you so much. Guillermo Fernandez from Imperial County, we have a question for you. If your employees are union and part of a collective bargaining agreement that handles all medical coverage, will they be notified separately, or is it the employer's responsibility to notify the union?
Hi, Christina. Good morning. Thank you for the question. Really interesting one, by the way.
Fernandez from Imperial County, we have a question for you. If your employees are union and part of a collective bargaining agreement that handles all medical
Thank you for the question. Really interesting one. Yes, it is responsibility of the employers to notify the union. That will be the actions to take by the employer if the employees are part of a union and bargaining agreement. Thank you.
We thank you so much, and DCSS acknowledges and appreciates the roles employer plays in the lives of the children we serve. Employers who are complying with the child support laws help contribute to the community and provide stability to the children receiving support.
If you have any questions, please enter them into the chat or the comment section and we can answer them. Also, our call center phone number is 866-901-3212. Or you may contact your local child support agency if you have any other additional questions. We do have a question, and it's for Carmen Hernandez in San Bernardino County. And the question is, when an employee is terminated and rehired, for how long is the child support order in effect before the employer has to wait to receive a new income withholding order? When an employee is terminated and rehired, for how long is the child support order in effect before the employer has to wait to receive a new income withholding order?
Hi, that's a great question. Hi, can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you for the question. If the employee is terminated by you, then what you need to do is just send us the form saying, indicating that the employee was terminated. If the employee is terminated and gets finds employment elsewhere, then you most likely you will receive another form once that employee starts a new employment.
Thank you so much. Again, if you have any additional questions, please contact your local child support agency or call us, and our call center number is 866-901-3212. At this time, I do not see any additional questions in the comments. DCSX does appreciate the role employers play in the lives of children we serve. Employers who are complying with the child support laws do help contribute to the community and provide stability to the children receiving support. We thank you all so much for your partnership.